If you're in the market for a budget red dot that's going to perform and it's going to last, you need to check out the Zero Tech Thrive HD. Alright guys, so the Zero Tech Thrive HD. Full disclosure really quick, Zero Tech did send these optics out to me free of charge. Basically what happened was I had reached out to them and asked if they were willing to send these out to me for testing and review, stuff like that. And they were like, hell yeah, man, and they sent them out. So there's no money exchanged either way, but they did send the optics to me for free. So they have two different variants of the Thrive HD red dot. The first one is just a 3 MOA single dot variant, and the second is a multi-reticle variant. So you get the 3 MOA dot, you have the big ring alone, and then you have the ring with the center dot. And the ring is very similar to like a EOTech style ring. Aside from the reticle differences, the red dots are pretty much identical. What you get in the box is identical, and all the other features are identical. Now, the price difference between the two, the single dot only will come in at $349, I believe. If I mess that up, I'll put it on screen. And then the multi-reticle, actually, normally it comes in at $399. But I just looked on their site and they currently have it on sale for $299. So getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I think that $299 price is absolutely absurd in a good way. And if you want to check it out, now is the time, because these things are awesome and I don't think you're gonna be able to beat the quality and all that kind of stuff for $299. So really quickly, gun is clear, no mag. I'll go over the specs really quick. Again, both models will have just a 3 MOA dot. It's a 2032 battery, side loaded. You can see that there, side load compartment. It's gonna have 11 adjustable brightness settings, 50,000 hours battery life. It's got 90 MOA of windage and elevation adjustment. So I'm gonna assume that's 45 each direction. If you've gotta go more than that, you're probably didn't mount it correctly. On their site, they say for the durability, it's gonna be shockproof, waterproof, and fog-proof. But if I haven't put the footage in there yet, I will. Gonna be testing the durability and making sure it holds zero and the glass doesn't just shatter, but we'll be testing that. And then it's got the auto sleep on and off function. You can also just turn the red dot off altogether if you want to save battery life. And then the last thing, it has an overall weight with the battery installed of 88 grams. So really quickly, let's go over what you get in the box here. When you first open it up, you will be greeted by this little thank you card. It has a QR code on it for the online instruction manual. And then on the back, it's just a little logo of their lifetime guarantee. So anything happens to it, glass breaks, emitter messes up, anything like that, no questions asked. Doesn't matter if you're the first, second, third, fourth, 15th owner. Hit them up, send it back to them. They'll either repair it or they will send you a new one. No questions asked. From there, you get all the heads that you need to change all the various things on it. In this bag, there was also 2 mounting screws to mount it onto a pistol, which those are obviously in use now. You get a little lens cleaning cloth that is Zero Tech branded. You get a little molded rubber cover to put over the top. So just fits over the top. My rear sight kind of blocks it when it's on the gun, but does work. I'm interested to test and see if that will fit on there and stay on there during recoil, because that'd be really cool to use to include the dot for like point and shooting training and stuff like that. And then the last thing in the box here is it's the mounting plate. So the red dot comes from the factory installed on this mounting plate for Picatinny rails. I've obviously taken it off. It is a RMR footprint, the red dot is. So if you have another mounting plate you want to use, maybe it's like a high-rise mounting plate or something, as long as it's RMR, it'll take it. But it's very nice they give you a Picatinny mounting plate out of the box, and especially for $2.99 for the multi-reticle blade. That's absurd. There's mounting plates out there that cost $2.99 alone. So my initial impressions of this red dot after about 400 rounds, I went out last night and did some shooting with it. Overall, it's super good. I still need to test the durability. I haven't done that at the time of filming this section of the video, but in general, the overall function and performance of the red dot has been super good so far. What do I like? What do I not like? I'll start off with what I don't like, because it's such a short list. The only thing really that I don't like about this optic so far is that there's no auto brightness adjust, which that's splitting hairs. I mean, for an optic coming in under $400, like, you don't really expect that, but that's like the only thing that I really wish they would add to it, even for just a little bit more money. And then the only other thing that's kind of a nitpicky thing, it's not really super important, but I wish it had just one more brighter setting. The highest, again, so nobody freaks out, gun is clear. The highest brightness setting, get that in focus there. The highest brightness setting is still plenty daytime bright, even out here in Texas for the very bright days. I can still see the dot, it's not an issue. But if there was just one more setting to go a little brighter, it would be just perfect. Now, what do I like? Side-loaded battery. I think that's a must-have on every red dot. That's why I switched away from the RMR in my duty gun, was because I hated having to take the red dot off to change the battery. Also, the window size. I'm gonna do a little comparison here in a minute between some red dots, but I think for the overall size of this red dot and then how big the window is, I think it's like the perfect balance point, and I don't think you can really get much better for something of this size. The adjustments are super easy to access. They're right here on the side. The buttons are audible and tactile, super easy to access. If you're up on the gun, you can very easily just reach up with your support thumb and change the settings. And then second to last thing, I really like really like the adjustments for the optic. Now, it's not a huge deal, but when I was zeroing the red dot, they were both tactile and audible and super crisp when you would be adjusting them. So there was no guessing when you're turning it if you were making an adjustment or how many clicks you made or anything. They were super crisp, super tactile, super audible, and no problems there. And then the last thing I will talk about for what I like is going to be the glass and the dot. So the glass is incredibly clear. There is a slight blue tint to the glass, but it's definitely not as much as the RMR, in my opinion. Just overall, the glass is super clear. When you're up on the gun, there's no distortion of the image that you're looking at. It doesn't like zoom in or zoom out or anything weird like that. I have noticed similar things like that with other red dots, but I do not get that with this. So I've got a couple different red dots here on the table. Do a little comparison really quick. I'll probably have some B-roll in there to get better shots of it, but you know, the closest thing that I have with me right now to the Zero Tech is going to be a SIG Romeo 1 Pro. This is definitely the closest in terms of price range. These go for about $369, so it's pretty much identical to the single dot only Zero Tech. But if you look at the size comparison, They are, I'll try to get them lined up here. I'd say the Zero Tech is, it's not showing up too well, but they're pretty much the same size. The main difference you'll notice in the window is the Zero Tech, it curves down at the bottom here. So that effectively makes the window bigger than it normally would be compared to like something like the Romeo 1. Now, I've used this a little bit. It used to sit on top of my competition rifle and I used it, it was fine. But I will say the dot clarity is definitely not as good on the SID Romeo 1. That's why when they sent me out, obviously I wanted to test it, but I immediately put the multi-reticle on my competition rifle because the dot's just so much better, honestly. Now, I've also got an RMR here. This is the RMR Type 2 6 MOA. Size-wise, again, it's hard to really tell, but if you're looking at just the height, I'd say they are fairly similar. I think the Zero Tech is probably a little bit taller, but then you look at the window size, there goes the battery. The window size on the Zero Tech is just obviously bigger. And then see if I can catch this on the camera. But there is a very distinct blue hue on the RMR. Again, nobody freak out, that's clear. Compare that to the Zero Tech, and I don't know if it's really shown on camera. There's a slight blue hue, but it's definitely not as blue as the RMR. And then last but least, this is my duty gun. So this has the Delta Point Pro on it. Again, this gun is also clear. Lock it back, nothing in there. So if you're looking at the size comparison, I'm gonna have to say the Delta Point is probably just a little bit bigger. It's a little bit taller than the Zero Tech. And with that, the window is just ever so slightly bigger. It's not a huge difference between the window sizes. I'd say the only main difference, so the Delta Point probably has the same height window, but because it just flat lines at the bottom here, you get a little bit more window down at the bottom on the corners compared to the Zero Tech, which again, it kind of curves off the bottom. So if this had been flat, I would say the window is identical in size. But because it's curved like that, it is just ever so slightly smaller than the Delta Point. But again, it is a smaller overall red dot. So with all that being said, let's get out on the range and I will do some durability tests and zero testing. I'm gonna shoot probably a 5-round group at the start, do a bunch of shooting, do a bunch of slide manipulations and stuff with the red dot, and then we'll test the zero afterwards and see if it holds zero, see if the glass holds up, all that kind of stuff.
All right, guys, so we're out here on the range now. We're gonna test the optic's durability and its ability to hold zero. So what we're gonna do is we will go back here to it's about 10 yards away at this blue barrel. I'm gonna send 5 rounds at the target at the center. Just keep in mind I'd already sent 1 round, just a little test shot. So there's already 1 round on there, but we'll send 5 rounds. I will do some slide manipulations using the red dot on this blue barrel. I'll smack it up against it a couple times and then shoot this white steel over here. I'll shoot 2 mads at that using the slide to reload the gun every time. And then once that's all done, we're gonna shoot 5 more rounds at the head bots of this target and see if anything shifted. So get my ears on really quick. All right, 5 rounds slow and controlled. Go up, look at the target. Those all felt pretty good. So I pulled, this one was that first shot that was already there, so I pulled 2 low, otherwise everything right here in the Ets. So let's let's go back. We will basically do 2 mat dumps at this white steel over here, and then we will redo that. So we put this out, new mat in. All right, here we go. So I'm aiming like right about here. So, you know, I had a couple rounds low here. Seems pretty good to me. There's really not much of a noticeable shift. Also, one thing to keep in mind with the SID that I've had issues with is this is just because of the SID, not because of the red dot. Whenever you pull the trigger slightly, it'll actually tilt the slide back, so it makes your dot go higher. So if you're paying attention to your dot and the dot starts going higher when you have a slow and controlled trigger squeeze, you could bring the dot down, but then when the gun actually fires, the slide sets, so it'll send your rounds lower. So, I mean, I'm happy with this here. With this performance, I'm not really worried about anything super dramatic that would affect your zero on your dot in a self-defender, concealed carry, law enforcement contest. All right, so gun is clear here. You can see there's no round in the chamber, no magazine. If you take a look, the glass here is completely fine. The body is completely fine. There's a little bit of carbon buildup there on the Zero Tech logo, but otherwise everything is completely fine there. So let's come over here real quick. Just test how rigid this glass is, see if it's gonna mess up at all. Got rifle rated steel here. You can see got some scratches now, but this is all messed up, the body. But if we take a look here, see if you can get a shot through the red dot here. Take a look, those little minor scratches on the glass itself actually don't make a huge difference. So glass didn't crack, it just got kind of chipped up. We'll continue shooting this over time. If the glass ends up failing because of these chips, then I'll put something out there, but overall, so far so good.
Not gonna lie, those rats on the rifle steel absolutely hurt me while I was doing them. As much as it sucked trying to mess up a red dot that I actually really like, the red dot itself handled it like a champ. Gun's clear again. You can see I already put some shots in, but we got all the damage on the body there and those 2 little chips on the window. And honestly, like, no BS, I really don't, you know, if I'm holding it against a white background, you can really clearly see the chips when you're looking through the red dot. But otherwise, if I was outside shooting targets, shooting steel, anything like that, it was very hard to notice out there on the range. So a couple things I forgot to mention really quick. When I had gone to the range and I had put the initial 400 rounds through the gun with the optic on it, well, let me back up. When I mounted the red dot onto my pistol, I used a Springer Precision mounting plate for the SID here, because the SID is not cut for RMRs. So I did get the plate, and when I installed it, I initially used the screws that came with the mounting plate, not the ones that came with the Zero Tech. And what had happened was, I guess the screws with the mounting plate were just a little shorter than the Zero Tech screws. I'd assume they were probably meant for an armor, and I just didn't even think about it. So what had happened was, when I was screwing it in and torquing them down, one of the screw holes actually stripped out. So once it stripped out, I got the screws that came with the Zero Tech, and I then used those. But initially, when I had put the screw in on the side that had stripped out, it kind of went in crooked, but I was able to get it tight, and so I just kind of rolled with it. The other screw hole held in there fine. But after probably 350-ish rounds of that range day, a buddy of mine noticed that the optic itself was starting to come loose. And again, that's not because of the optic. That's not the optic's fault. That was my fault. I didn't mount it properly in the first place. Now, the really interesting thing is, you know, I had zeroed it. Everything was good. The optic came loose. I didn't notice anything dramatic once the optic had come loose. And then once I had taken it off to reverse thread the screw hole and fix it, and then I remounted it, it didn't change the zero at all. Like, I think it started shooting just a little bit low, but that was it. Like, I'm talking at the zero distance, I zero at 15, it was probably like half an inch lower than what I had it at before. So all the second half of the video where I did the torture testing, that was all after I had remounted the optic on there properly, and I didn't even re-zero it. I ran with it. So that also partially explains some of the rounds dropping a little low. And then also that last clip in the intro of it was a 100-yard unsupported shot on a size steel target, the same target I wrapped the slide off of. That was after the torture test, and again, I hadn't re-zeroed the optic after I had remounted it properly. So I had remounted it, I didn't re-zero it, I did the torture test on it, and still performed. Now, one quick note on the torture test. I didn't do a drop test, and that was on purpose. I personally think that a drop test, you know, a shoulder height drop test, is kind of pointless. Does it test like the durability of the optic? Yeah, I mean, if you can drop it from shoulder height on a hard surface and it doesn't break, it's a pretty durable optic. But the point of this video was to test the optic in a reality-based way. So I don't think I've ever seen a video out there of somebody actually dropping their gun from shoulder height on a hard surface in real life, like a law enforcement video, self-defender video, stuff like that. There's a couple of videos that I've seen, you know, if somebody gets shot in one of their arms or in their hands, they'll drop it, but that's a very specific situation, and if that's the case, the least of your concern is my red dot okay? So I didn't do a drop test, and I just stuck with the tried and true, you know, testing for stuff that you're actually probably going to be doing if you're using it in a self-defender, law enforcement type situation, even some competitions, slide manipulations using the red dot, and just general banging it around on stuff. The rifle steel plate isn't really a realistic test. I guess the closest thing to that in real life would be if you used like a car bumper or a car door to rack a slide in an injured shooter contest. But that was really just to test how strong the glass was, which again, I think it passed with flying colors. After that 8th time, and while I was doing it, I was like, oh man, this glass is gonna be completely shattered. So it was a pleasant surprise to look at it, and it was fine. So my final thoughts on the Zero Tech Thrive HD. I really, really like this optic. I think for what you pay and what you get, the quality, the performance, the durability, I think it's a complete steal. And you should probably go grab one now while they're still cheap, because as more and more people start seeing Zero Tech, I think they're gonna catch on. They might raise the prices. So I would go grab one now if you're even considering it, because honestly, the $299 price for the multi-reticle is absolutely absurd for what you get. And even the $369 for the normal 3 MOA dot is still, it's a really good price. Again, compared to other optics that I've seen and used for that price range, I think this is by far my favorite, and I'm gonna continue using it even with the broken glass and all that kind of stuff. So really quick, I want to touch on who is Zero Tech. It's not a really widely known brand here in the United States, but basically what I've been able to gather from their website talking about their story is they initially started in Australia. They were a break-off company sort of from TSA Outdoors. They started in Australia. They started with high-end rifle scopes for hunters in Australia, and something happened, I guess. They wanted to come into the American market. They started making red dots and stuff like that, promoting them in the American market. And so I don't know the time frames on all this kind of stuff, but from my understanding, it's pretty relatively new. So that's why probably haven't heard of them before, but I've seen no issues so far with the quality and the performance. So if you're looking for a new red dot, take a look at them. I hope this video was able to answer some questions for you regarding the red dot, and you know, if you think it's awesome, go grab one. I don't have a discount code. Again, I'm not sponsored by them. I just simply reached out and asked them if they would send them out to me to do testing and review, because when I saw it on a friend's gun, I was super interested in it, and I thought it was super cool. The window is good, the bezels were thin, so you don't have that much occluding your vision. The dot was super crisp. It just felt like it was built right. So after I saw that, I reached out to them. They sent out the optics to me, but otherwise I'm not sponsored or anything. They didn't give me any money. They just sent me 2 of their red dots and then 1 of their rifle scopes, which be on the lookout for a video coming sometime in the future on their Vengeance 1:6 LPDO. It's a second focal plane. You can see there I've got the multi-reticle mounted on top here. But be on the lookout for that. Just a little teaser for that video. I think for the price on that guy, again, the glass is super clear, and the highlight of that thing for me so far is the eye relief is super forgiving. So if you're new to LPVOs, I think this is going to be super easy for you to use, and I think you're going to be happy with the overall performance of it. But not trying to get ahead of myself too much on that. I'll be making a video. I've got to do some testing with that, and then I'll be making a video on that as well. So if you want to see that video, drop a comment and let me know you want to see it. Also, obviously, drop a subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way, when I do post it, you'll be notified and you'll be able to watch it. But with all that being said, guys, drop a like if you liked the video. I hope it helped you get a better understanding of what this red dot is, what this company is, and how it performs. If you don't think I achieved that goal, drop a dislike, or if you didn't like anything about this video, drop a dislike. Otherwise, do all the things that help us small creators out. Like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff, because the only way we can grow is if you interact with our videos and you watch them and you let us know how we're doing. Again, positive or negative. Let me know how everything's going so far, and if you have any questions, also obviously drop them in the comments. So with all that being said, guys, that was the Zero Tech Thrive HD. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.